Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. Coming to you not quite live from One Take Studios, where we are entering the world of theoretical and experimental probability. Alright, let's start with some vocabulary, shall we? First up is the word outcome. What is an outcome? In the world of probability, an outcome is the result of an experiment or situation. Alright, that could be anything along the lines of I flip a coin. Heads is an outcome. Tails is an outcome. I go into my closet and I pull out a sweatshirt. That's an outcome. Alright, so experiment here, don't necessarily think science-y sort of thing, but yeah, what could happen? Those are outcomes. So then there's the idea of sample space, which a lot of people get kind of tangled up a little bit, but a sample space is the set of all possible outcomes, alright? The set. In other words, if you are looking for the sample space, you are talking about a list, alright? A list of things, the set of things that could happen. Alright, so if I talk about the sample space for flipping a coin, what could happen? I could flip heads, I could flip tails. That list of events, that is going to be my sample space. Those are my possible outcomes. You cannot say that the sample space for flipping a coin is 2, because yes, there are 2 outcomes, but we're looking for what are they. So then what usually trips people up? What's the sample space for rolling a die? Dice is plural, die is singular. What is the probability? Sorry, not probability. What is the sample space for rolling a die? How many of you just said 6? Because while there are 6 outcomes, that is not the sample space. The list of things that could happen for rolling a die is I could roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So sample space could be a list of words, could be a list of numbers, but is not just how many, but what are they? So list them out. What could happen? Alright, so probability then is the likelihood that an event will occur. Likelihood that an event will occur. So what does this mean about probabilities? Well, could I have a probability as low as 0? Yes. What does it mean if my probability is 0? That's going to mean it is not happening. Whatever the event is, it's just not going to happen. Alright? As opposed to the probability being 100% or 1. Okay, what does that mean? The event will definitely happen. Notice the word will implies future. That's what this is talking about, the probability of something that hasn't happened yet. So my probability is going to be a number between 0 and 1. That's from a decimal standpoint. If you want to think about it as percents, that's 0% to 100%. And probability is always between those or equal to those numbers. You can't truly have a probability over 100% because if 1 means it will happen, then there is nothing else. And if 0 means it won't happen, then there is nothing else. So no negatives, nothing over 1. Alright, so the likelihood that an event will occur. Will. Something happening in the future. Okie dokie. So how do we put this together? How do we generate these numbers between 0 and 1? This right here, this is going to be important for us. This is the basic summary of all things probability. You're going to create a ratio, a comparison, between the number of favorable outcomes and the number of total outcomes. And that is your probability. So number of favorable outcomes over number of total outcomes. My brain usually just distills it down to favorable over total. Because let's say I'm talking about geometric probability. Well, that would be favorable area over total area. So this works for basically all things probability. Well, alright, let's see. What else did I put here? I put nothing else here. Alright. Are we good? We are good. Let's say, for an example here real quick, let's say that I have a song that I like, and I've got a CD with 12 songs on it. And so I'm looking for the probability that my one particular song that will play, pick a song. Oh, I don't know. Jesus Loves Me. Do I have this on a CD? No. It'd be nice if I did. Alright, so if there's 12 songs, I'm looking for the probability of playing this one song. Think about what that's going to be. I have one favorable song out of a grand total of 12 songs on the CD. The probability is 1/12. That's it. Favorable outcomes over total outcomes. Notice we're using capital P for probability, capital P for probability, and then there's different ways that you can describe the events, sometimes using words, sometimes using numbers. Okay, now specifically then, what happens, don't peek, there we go. when we talk about theoretical probability, because we said the whole title for this is theoretical versus experimental. So theoretical is what should happen based on equally likely outcomes. So by way of example here, let's say that I would like to flip a coin 10 times. If I think about what should happen, well, there's two outcomes, and they are both of the same likelihood because I don't have some sort of weird flipped weighted coin or anything like that. So when we talk about this, let's say I want to know the probability of flipping tails. Well, there's one favorable outcome, tails, over two total outcomes, heads or tails. So that means theoretically, if I flip a coin 10 times, then half of them should be tails. Favorable over total. If the two events are equally likely, then it's just the one out of the two. By comparison, what does this mean here for experimental probability? This is what should happen based on what actually happened. So again, both of these should, we're talking future, things happening in the future. You cannot tell the probability of things that have already happened. However, you can find probability based on what has actually happened. So let's say that I already flipped a coin 10 times, and out of those 10 times when I flipped it, I got 4 heads, 4 heads, and I got 6 tails. So in theory, theoretically, I should have gotten 5 and 5, but when I actually did the experiment and I flipped the coin, I got 4 heads and 6 tails. Based on this, excuse me, now if I'm looking for the probability that I'm going to flip tails based on what has happened previously, that's going to be 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, which I'm going to call that maybe 60%, 0.6. Understand that you can put your probability in multiple forms. So you can write it as a fraction, you can write it as a decimal, or you can write it as a percent, and all of those are considered to be legitimate ways to write your probability. But this is based on equally likely, this is based on what has happened previously. So theoretical, experimental. Again, I have seen different words being used in certain textbooks, but those are the two main concepts right there. Alright, then one last concept for the day, and that is the idea of a compliment. This is not, "My, you look nice today" sort of compliment. This is, notice the E there instead of the I, this is the probability that an event, E for event, will not occur. The probability that it will not occur. So if I'm talking about the probability of rain, what is the complement for the probability of rain? Some of you might say, well, sun. Rain and sun, those are opposites. This is a complement. It's not an opposite. So what conceptually is the probability of rain? The complement for that would be the probability of not rain. That might be sun, that might be sleet, that might be snow, that might be heavy fog. But as long as it's not rain, this is the complement of this. As far as probabilities are concerned, actual numbers, if the probability of rain is 30%, when I go to find the numbers for the probability of not rain, the complement, I'm simply taking whatever's left of my 100% probability. So if there's 30% chance of rain, the percent chance of not rain would be for this one 70%. So 1 minus 30% is 70%. So conceptually, rain and not rain are complements, and then 30%, 70% are complements as well. All right, this is just, again, the very, very basics of this. Probability, man, it's misleading sometimes. Know the words, start there, and in my experience, probability is easy until all of a sudden it's not easy anymore. So having a really good understanding of your foundation can help you. Fingers crossed, keep trying and see what happens. All right, have fun.